Think you're prepared? If you're missing just one of these items, you're not as ready as you think you are. From severe weather to riots to lockdowns, history proves these 10 items vanish first. Get ahead of the rush. Hey guys, it's Jara with Wicked Prepared. Welcome to the channel. We aim to help you be prepared no matter what comes your way. Today I'm sharing the top 10 items that vanish fast when a crisis hits. But more than just a simple list of items, I'm going to be sharing with you what you can do now while there's still time, as well as some alternatives if the you-know-what hits the fan and you're caught with your preps down. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video for some tips on avoiding the panic and having a better chance of getting what you need. All right, let's dive in. Number one is water. We all know how crucial water is to survival. It's probably the most important item you can prep, and one of the first to disappear from store shelves at the first hint of trouble. You can only survive 3 days without water, and not only that, but it's a necessity for many other survival tasks like cooking and hygiene. Every home should have, at the bare minimum, 1 gallon of water per person per day for at least a 72-hour period. But this really is a bare minimum. I like to bump it up to 2 gallons per person per day myself. And if you have space to store more than 3 days worth, this should be a priority. Store water in various size containers, including single-serve bottles for easy grab and go in an emergency. If you are a home canner, never store empty canning jars. Always fill them with clean water before you store them. They take up the same amount of space empty as full, so you might as well fill them. Be sure to rotate through your water that you store if you can. In our house, we like to store water in 5-gallon water cooler jugs because we use a water cooler. So these jugs get used and rotated. This is just one option for storing water. There's many different water storage systems and containers. I'll put a few of our favorites down below. If you're on a budget, you can refill containers that you already have. Just make sure to wash them well. If you're storing water for a longer time period, consider using bleach or water preserver in the water that you're storing. Beyond storing water though, and especially if you don't have room to store a lot of water, make sure you have at least one method for filtering and purifying water. A Berkey or an Alexa Pure filter are great, and they can be used every day to remove contaminants from your drinking water, even when it's not an emergency. But if space or budget are an issue, something like a Sawyer Mini is also a great choice. You can also stock water purification tablets and coffee filters for sediment removal, which is another space and budget-friendly option. Also, don't forget that you can boil water on your emergency stove to purify it. You also need a source of water to filter. Although you might choose to filter your stored water when you use it, when that runs out, you should be familiar with water sources near your home. Ponds, streams, even swimming pools can be a source of water if you have a way to filter and purify it. If there isn't a good nearby water source, consider setting up a rain catchment system if you can. One final note about water before we move on: don't forget about your pets and livestock. If you have animals who depend on you, be sure to account for their water needs as well. Number 2 is toilet paper and other paper products, but mainly toilet paper. We all know this one very, very well. In fact, it's become the subject of many jokes, but it's really no laughing matter. It is one of the first things that people rush to clear off the shelves when a crisis is looming. And when the S hits the F, you still need TP for the S. The good news is that paper products are non-perishable, so there's no reason not to stock up on them. Get creative on storage places because they are bulky, but they're light, so they can go in places that you might not keep other preps. Consider other things that can be used in lieu of toilet paper if needed. Things like flushable wipes, even baby wipes are good to keep on hand, and they can clean a lot more tushes, taking up less space than dry paper. No matter how much you store, if a situation stretches on long enough, you will run out, so consider stocking some reusable options just in case. Cloth handkerchiefs and washable rags for cleaning can take the place of tissues and paper towels. And as much as I don't like to think about it, there are reusable options for toilet paper and feminine products as well. Of course, you also have to give a lot of thought to how you're planning to clean those items as well if you store them. I think boiling them in a metal wash tub over a fire would be part of my plan, as well as bleach. Stay tuned for some tips on bleach a little bit later in the video. A portable bidet is another option that's a little bit more sanitary, I think. So I do recommend keeping one or several of those in your emergency gear. If you don't know what I'm talking about with that, make sure to check the description below the video because I'm going to have links to a lot of the things I talked about down there. Number 3 on my list, batteries. Everyone wants to stock up on batteries to power flashlights, lanterns, and other emergency gear. Make sure you have plenty of batteries in your preps to avoid the panic buying pit. My favorite place that I've been getting the best deal on batteries is Amazon. We stock up on them by the case. They sell them in like boxes of 100. I put some in my battery case that I keep handy, and I keep the rest down cellar. I like having the battery case handy so that I have some of every size on hand when I need them. This ensures that they are getting rotated. When my case gets low, I refill from the cellar stash and I buy a fresh supply to refill the basement. Batteries do have a shelf life, but it's pretty long. It's like 10 years. So as long as you're rotating them by using them to fill your remote control and all of those other things you have that use batteries, you can be confident that they won't go to waste. It is a good idea, however, to consider investing in some rechargeable batteries and a charging system for them. If you want to have these for emergency use, you will need to think about how you're going to recharge them when the grid is down. Stay tuned because I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. One bonus tip, if you have those outdoor solar pathway lights, they can often be used to recharge AA rechargeable batteries. Number 4 on this list is medications and first aid supplies. We already face medical shortages on a daily basis. When panic buying commences, the shelves will empty of over-the-counter medicines. Pharmacies will soon be empty of prescription medications as well. These items bear even more importance during a disaster or emergency because hospitals, doctors, and traditional medical care might be overwhelmed or unavailable. So be sure to keep well stocked on medications and supplies that your family needs or that you might someday need. Besides your over-the-counter meds, make sure you have plenty of bandages, gauze, tape, and things like that. Be sure to rotate these items, but don't stress the expiration or best by dates too much. The U.S. military, through its shelf life extension program, has done some studies on the effectiveness of medication beyond those printed expiration dates, and they found that most medications remain safe and effective way past those dates. Just be sure that you store them in a cool, dry location, like not your warm, steamy bathroom like many people do, and rotate them using the oldest items first, and you should be fine to stockpile a decent amount. Consider using a service such as JACE to build an emergency stockpile of antibiotics and other prescription medications that are difficult to get otherwise. There are several services that offer this type of thing, and I will put the ones that we've used down below. Getting these covered gives you so much peace of mind because these are the types of medications that can make a life or death difference in an emergency. Another thing to consider is learning and becoming familiar with herbal, natural, and alternative remedies if you aren't already familiar with these things. For those times when the shelves are bare and your stockpile has run dry, or as an option to stretch that stockpile and make it last longer if a situation threatens to continue for the long term. Start studying and put together a reference library and an herbal apothecary. Number 5 on the list, baby supplies, such as diapers, wipes, and formula. Anything you need for your baby. We've witnessed this in very recent memory with the baby formula shortage of 2022. If your baby is exclusively formula fed, empty shelves is a terrifying sight. There's no worse feeling on this earth than being unable to give your child the basic necessities of life. Our most basic instinct is to feed and protect our children. So it's vitally important to maintain a stockpile of baby items if you have a baby in your home or you're expecting one in the future. Even if you don't have a baby, consider keeping a small supply for bartering or helping others. Diapers, wipes, and other items like these, they aren't as vitally important as formula, but it would definitely be a considerable inconvenience if they were unavailable. It can be difficult to stock up on these types of items because they are expensive and babies only use them for a limited amount of time, so we don't want to have anything that's going to go to waste, but stock at least a few weeks' supply ahead if you can. An obvious solution to formula availability would be to breastfeed at least part of the time if you can, but this isn't about telling anyone how they should or shouldn't feed their baby. Even when I've had exclusively breastfed babies, I still considered it necessary to keep a few cans of formula on hand just in case. Emergencies come in all different shapes and sizes, and the emergency could mean that mom is unavailable to feed the baby for one reason or another. Besides formula, build an advanced supply of diapers, wipes, baby food, pacifiers, any other things that your baby needs as well. Consider buying a size up on diapers if you're worried about the baby growing out of them before you can use them, as babies tend to do. In an emergency, it would be better to have a slightly big diaper than none at all. Also consider keeping reusable cloth diapering supplies and wipes on hand as well. Number 6 is food. I almost didn't include this because it's so all-encompassing and it is kind of a no-brainer, but it's definitely one of the first things to fly off the shelf in an emergency. I think of this as 2 separate categories. One is the milk, bread, eggs category. Think about it. Whenever a severe storm is approaching, what do people run to the store to grab? We see it over and over. Empty shelves in the bread aisle, empty dairy cases. Since these are perishable items, it's hard to stock up on them, hence why people run to grab them at the last minute. But you can stock up on powdered eggs and milk. Choose good tasting ones that you actually enjoy eating and drinking. This is the perfect example of why you should always try something before you store it. There are some pretty nasty powdered milks and eggs out there. I'll put our favorites down below. You find your family's favorite and build up a stockpile. When it comes to bread, I always keep a few cans of bread mix on hand, and I always have yeast. A dough whisk can come in handy for mixing up bread dough when the power's out and you can't use your KitchenAid or your bread machine or whatever you typically use. And of course, you would need an off-grid way to bake a loaf as well. I'll put some options that we use down below. Consider storing some bread alternatives. Crackers don't have an extremely long shelf life, but they do keep a lot longer than a loaf of bread. So you could keep a few months up to a year's rotating supply of crackers in your pantry. Anything you can spread on bread, you can spread on crackers. Anything you can put between bread, you can put between crackers. And anything that you can ladle over toast, you can also ladle over crackers. Also consider storing ingredients or mixes for other bread alternatives that you can cook in a skillet or a pan over a burner, like flatbread, tortillas, English muffins, or even biscuits. The other category is the canned and non-perishable food category. Panic buyers always strip the shelves in no time flat. Canned meats, soups, pasta, gone in hours. Everyone grabs what they can. Keep a well-stocked prepper pantry and you won't have to worry about the empty shelves or the panicked mob. Build your food supply gradually. Don't forget high-calorie, long shelf life options like peanut butter, beans, and rice. We have plenty of videos here on the channel about building an emergency food supply or prepper pantry. I'll link a few down below for you. Number 7 on my list is bleach and disinfecting wipes. These disappear quickly in a disaster. This was a big one during the pandemic. These were the items that not only disappeared quickly, but also took the longest to return, at least in my area. This is especially true when the incoming crisis is health related, and there's a lot of that knocking on our door. So be sure to keep a good supply of these items on hand. Here's the catch. Bleach is a great multi-purpose item that can do so many things: purify water, clean, disinfect, and kill germs, viruses, and bacteria. But it has a very short shelf life. Within about 9 months, bleach has lost most of its ability to do those things that we rely on it to do. So I only store and recommend storing about 6 months worth of bleach. When I buy a jug of bleach or other cleaning supplies, I mark the date on it with a Sharpie before I put it away down cellar. This helps me keep track of what needs to be used first, but it also helps me keep track of how long I'm storing things. If I grab a jug of bleach and the date on it is more than 6 months ago, that tells me that I'm storing too much. If it's considerably less, that tells me that I need to bump up the amount that I'm storing. A better solution for the long term is to store pool shock or calcium hypochlorite. This is a powder that will keep for a long period of time when it's dry, and a very tiny amount can be used to mix up a gallon of liquid bleach when it's needed. This is a much better way to be able to store many, many years worth of bleach for cleaning, disinfecting, and water purification. Just avoid storing it around metal items or in a metal container, even a metal lid on your container. It's very caustic and it can eat away at anything metal. Disinfecting wipes are not quite as difficult to store, and I store a very large supply of these, but keep in mind you can do much the same job with bleach, water, and rags in an emergency if storage space is at a premium. It's always smart to look for multi-purpose preps when you can, especially if you're short on space. Number 8 is generators. Power generation. We see this around here every time we have an ice storm. Generators are gone. This is the heart of preparedness. Buy these things before you need them. Have them on hand and ready to go when disaster strikes. Then you won't be fighting a desperate mob and paying a premium price. Generators can be used to power your fridge or freezer, lights, sump pumps, medical equipment, juice up those rechargeable batteries we talked about, and much more. A generator is a huge investment though financially, and they're only feasible for certain types of homes. So not everyone can or will purchase a generator, and that's okay. If at all possible, try to budget and save for one if you are able to store and use one where you live. Put aside a little bit each month if you can, and look for sales once you have the money saved up. Try to think about how much money it will save you if it saves a fridge and freezer full of food even one time. If you can't afford a generator, don't stress about it. They're nice to have, but they are a luxury, and it's a mistake to rely completely on them. Focus on equipping yourself with no power needed versions of the electric items that you might need in an emergency. I grew up in a home without electricity, and we did not have a generator or solar power or anything like that. We had ways to do without power. So my brain automatically goes there. How would I do this without power? Also, think about other alternatives to a traditional fuel-powered generator. Have smaller power banks to power your phones and other small devices. Consider a power station with solar panels. These are also referred to commonly as solar generators. They come in many different sizes, and they can go places that gas generators can't go. They have the added benefit, obviously, of not needing fuel, and that brings me to my next item on my list, which is fuel. Fuel is going to go fast in a crisis. I'm sure you can picture it. Lines at the gas stations that stretch for miles, people stranded on the highway with no gas in sight, no fuel available for generators, emergency stoves, and heaters. This is going to amplify a disaster tenfold. If you need to evacuate an approaching storm without gas, you're going to be a sitting duck. And if you're stuck riding out a disaster, bugging in without power, especially in extreme temperatures, a lack of fuel can mean big trouble. Stock up on fuel canisters for your stoves and heaters, kerosene for your lamps, whatever kind of fuel you need for your gear. If you have a place to safely store it, you can store gas for your vehicle in appropriate containers. Use a fuel stabilizer and rotate it like you would with anything else. Another little tip that can make a big difference: never let your car go below half a tank. We know how it goes. Things always happen at the worst possible time and when we least expect it. If you have to evacuate or make a trip to the emergency room or anything like that, you don't want to find your gas tank on empty. The final item on my list is ammo and self-defense supplies. In uncertain times, people want to feel protected. Ammunition flies off the shelves, sometimes literally overnight. Know your local laws, but if this is part of your self-defense plan, don't wait. In a true SHTF scenario, being prepared will give you a distinct advantage for survival, but it can also put a target on your back. Make sure that you have what you need to protect you and yours, and plenty of it. Now that you know what disappears first, take inventory. What are you missing? Let me know down in the comments. I just want to reiterate, this is what being prepared is all about. It's about thinking ahead and getting what you might need before you need it. You won't have to worry about what's disappearing off the shelves because you already have it all, and you're hunkered down, safe inside your home. If you do find yourself needing things at the last minute, my best advice is to think outside the box and the box store. Places like Walmart, Costco, major grocery stores and gas stations, they're going to be the first places hit, and their shelves are going to be the first to be emptied. There will be things left in the least expected places. Look for smaller stores and places that other people wouldn't think of. Feed and farm stores, for example. Craft or office supply stores often have snacks, paper goods, and cleaning supplies. Marine and RV stores or departments carry toilet paper that people don't think to run for. Get creative and you may find what you need, but always remember the best course of action is avoiding it entirely by being prepared. We never know what's around the corner in this crazy world. I hope you found this list helpful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me a ghost emoji down in the comments and check out this video next for everything you need to survive a summer power outage. I'm Jara with Wicked Prepared. Survive today, thrive tomorrow. We'll see you next time.